And we're live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for the Beyond Life Paranormal Research podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds. With me tonight, my guest is Austin Maynard, who is the tech manager for Nick Groff. Please welcome Austin Maynard.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's good
Welcome
having you. Good being on here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
I feel like I make a lot of appearances on the Supernatural Inc. network.
Yeah, I saw you were on Greg Costa's show, and
oh yeah, and then plus me and KD are best friends though, so it's like, you know, it's gonna happen one way or another.
Right. Yeah, I checked out your generic podcast with you guys, and I gotta say, some of the stuff is hilarious, especially the honey badger stuff.
Oh man, honey badger. That's like that's my spirit animal. I just do what I gotta do and don't give a shit.
Hey Tim, welcome in.
What's up, Tim?
So
nice talking to you. Nice seeing you on again, Tim. Sorry, go ahead.
Tell my audience a little bit about yourself that aren't familiar with you.
Well, my name is Austin Maynard. I founded an organization called the Underground Paranormal Network, which kind of focuses on locations that are quote unquote underground, you know, and in terms of like not very well known or, you know, really kind of a hidden gem type deal. And so as I started doing that, I started meeting a lot with different paranormal tech guys, you know, right? Like ITC guys, including KD and JW Prather, Stephen KD Halte, and all of them really like pushed me to start getting into building and like building ghost boxes and building ITC devices. And a lot of it was probably because I was bugging them so much that they got sick of me asking. So they were like encouraging me to like, just go build it yourself, man. Like you've been messing with this stuff and working with us long enough. You should just at this point just go do it. So stop bugging us. And so yeah, that kind of started. That's how I got into that. And then you know, KD and I became best friends, and JW and I are very close, you know, obviously. Where's the logo? IDC Devices. Me and JW have partnered up on that. So, you know, and the Haltes are, you know, icons in my opinion. But, and plus they're great mentors to me. And so, I think all of that combined, plus, you know, a lot of the other work that I was doing with the locations and, you know, really just experimentation and networking, it got me the opportunity I have with Nick on Deathwalker.
Right.
You watched me on TV today, Tracy. Oh my gosh.
So a little bit about Deathwalker with Nick Groff. You guys travel all over the world, or?
Not at the moment, no. At the moment, we're currently like kind of staying in the Northeast and kind of along the East Coast. A lot of it just depends on like what the funding ends up being for each season. And you know, a lot of that depends on how good it's put together. And I mean, Nick is you know, he's got talent beyond this world when it comes to editing. Like this, Nick is the one that started Ghost Adventures and everything, right? So like this dude knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for 20-some years. And so he does it very well. And so we just tried to add another element by bringing me on, I guess. You know, just to bring in new and exciting technology and just different experiments that he can do, which is really cool. You know, it's really cool because I mean the connection that he has with the other side is fascinating, and like the way that he's able to open himself up it's almost just like, I mean, give that dude something to channel the voices through, because this dude is just like completely like in tune with everything, it seems. And man, there's a lot of people that are like that, that you can just, they're almost like antennas, or like a lighthouse in the darkness. They just magnetically pull these things in, and it's crazy. And so why not? And I was like telling him that, like, why not put you and Tessa, into certain situations, certain experiments, where you guys become the subjects, and you guys like try different things. Like, let's try some different things, because you guys have such a great chemistry between the two of them, and the way that they can interact with the other side. It makes so much sense to just, what I mean? Like, why not take advantage of that?
Yeah, that brings pretty much a good show when you got somebody that clicks well together and investigating.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they are fucking soulmates, man. It's kind of crazy. Like, I've never seen it like to the level that it is with them, but it's like, it's just so crazy. They are like that's dedication. That's like, they are really, they're crazy. They're soulmates, man. Fucking soulmates.
I bet. I've seen,
which makes for, it definitely makes for better energy when people are investigating. Like, when they're on site, I think it definitely helps a lot.
I've watched some of the episodes of Deathwalker. Like I say, it's actually a pretty good show.
Yeah. I mean, if you start, I mean, most people, Nick and everybody will say, like, start in season 2 if you're gonna watch it, because season 1 was just kind of like the theories and stuff. It's like, and it's not even like the theories necessarily. It's just, it's not real a whole lot of investigating. It's not really where it gets exciting. Season 2 and season 3. Season 3 was a lot more exciting than season 2. And then season 4, when it comes out, man, is gonna be like, it's gonna be sick, because we got like, I'm in 11 episodes that, like, I travel around with them for 11 episodes. And so there's like, I'm there with, like, I'm the one setting up the experiments. I'm the one setting up, like, tuning in whatever I'm getting, then hand it off to Nick, right, for him to go use. So, like, I feel really comfortable with the scenarios, and I know that it's not being bullshitted, right? Like, there's no like, that's a big thing, right? A lot of people say, like, oh, it's a TV show. There's some level of fakery and trickery to it, and it's like, I can genuinely say that I do not let that shit happen. Like, I won't put it on there if I even have an inkling of something's off.
Right.
Like, I don't like this. And even if I see it, like, even when they're filming, I'm not gonna lie, even when they're filming, there have been times where I've interrupted the investigation that Nick, and when they're doing their thing solo, like, I've interrupted it because something, I don't think that something is right with this piece of equipment, and so I just want to make sure that it's operating properly for you, and so I do a lot of that too. But I have to do that. You have to do that, because as investigators, as a researcher, you want to maintain your legitimacy, your credibility, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, I mean, I appreciate the fact that Dan and Nick and all those, and Justin, and Tessa, that they give me the opportunity that I have, because it allows, because the platform that Nick has, that he has, let's take advantage of that and actually try to, put some new ideas out there, put some equipment out there, and some like, just things that are really being done in the community, that a lot of people are not paying attention to, but are, like, really exploring different ideas, different boundaries, and exploring. ITC is a big thing. It's all frequencies, right? But also, I mean, it's a lot of it is frequencies, man. It's all experimenting with the frequencies, whether that's light, sound, radio frequencies, or the electromagnetic spectrum, basically. I mean, I think it's going to be a combination of frequencies, and so we just play around with that idea like all season. But it's kind of crazy because some of these experiments are like wild, man.
Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great, man. I just love that. Like, we have that. I can for certain say that it's not bullshit.
Right.
Because I've been very critical about shit my entire career, but if I can see it and I can witness it and I can say, that makes me feel better, at least, right?
Yep. That's the same with us. Like, when we self-film, what you see is what you get. If we don't catch nothing, that's what you're gonna see.
Right. I do that. I go live when typically, if I'm gonna do any kind of content creation or put out any kind of investigating online. It's not going to be cut. It's not going to be edited. It's going to be a live feed. So, and I choose to do that because, one, I hate evidence review. Unless unless it's a really important, if I have to comb through data or something, that's different. That's interesting because I can find, there's actual evidence is hard for me because there's so little of it that's actually good enough, if any, that there is, that's good enough to say that this is legitimately a paranormal phenomena, right? And so if I don't like going through audio and video, I guess I should say. And two, like you said, what you see is what you get. It's all one long shot.
Yep.
One long continuous shot. So what we go through is what they're going through. So, I would prefer it that way. Plus, the people that are watching tend to find more in the video than right. Exactly.
We do a lot of lives from when we go to private residents. If they give us permission, we'll do lives from their house and stuff like that, and let people kind of see what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I honestly, at this point, well, to be fair, it's not at this point. I stopped doing residential investigations probably, God, man, 2018, 2017, maybe. It wasn't long. I wasn't in the field long before I decided, I'm not going to do that. Mainly because, I mean, you probably experienced some dirty houses.
Oh, yeah.
And some, some clients that don't seem to understand certain things, even though you've explained it to them 1,000 times, but they expect you to be the one to solve the problem. And that was always hard for me, at least, because I wasn't going to solve the problem. If you wanted me to come in, I was going to come in, stir the shit up a little bit, and then leave you with the mess. That's all that would really happen. I can, by me stirring it up, I might possibly find out some information, right?
Right.
But what good is that going to do you? Because now I've just stirred the pot, and now they know that, you're trying to open up that door of communication. And so, is that something you really want? You really want that? If you're already scared to death now, you know what I mean? So I always would tell people, I always decline them. When people come to me, I decline it because I don't feel like I have the ability to solve their problem, and I just don't like dealing with people, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've had there was one time I had a lady that I did an apartment, she had an apartment, right? And so we went in there, and she said that she was having all kinds of activity there, all kinds of evil things, she claimed, right? We went in there, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times total. I mean, bare minimum. And honestly, I was questioning a lot of it. The evidence that we got, it was sketchy at best, right? And but this lady would call me 4 times a day, wanting to talk for 2 hours. But every time we would talk, she would tell me the same things that were happening, that she told me, the 4 hours ago when we were on the phone for that other 2 hours. And like, I don't
Right.
want to be rude and like, at a certain point, it's like, I know that you're suffering, you're going through hell right now. And I get that. And I don't want to be like rude to you, but stop calling me. Right. Like, leave me alone. Like, I can't do anything more for you. But so that's why I just felt like, it's probably best I just don't,
Right. Yeah, there's not many teams in the field much anymore that do residential. We're one of the few, besides my friends Raven's Eye Paranormal. We work together on a lot of them.
Are you sure about that? There's a lot of I can't even tell you how many like small time teams, that are really, they're not really necessarily in the paranormal community per se, right? They're just like a small local group, whatever. They travel and they do their own thing, but they're always very kind of hostile towards other teams and stuff, But I mean, but there's so many of those people. There's so many of them, dude. Like I talk to so many people. I mean, I run 7 locations, so like, I mean, I deal with people all the time, new teams, new people every single time. And so many of them like just kind of tell me the same things. They, they, you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I think they all do. It seems like more teams do residentials than don't do residentials. Although the number that is not doing residentials is definitely growing. Like the numbers that like of people that don't do them anymore is definitely growing. And I think it's because a lot of the people that aren't in the field now are starting to see, like, they're starting to watch the shows, they watch the TikToks and all the stuff that's, all the stuff that we're producing basically, right? And like they see that and they're just like, oh shoot, man, that's really cool. I swear my house is haunted. I get all kinds of weird noises, and like you got so many of those people, they just want to see what's going on, right? But a lot of them don't necessarily, I mean, you could say that they don't necessarily understand the consequences of what they're asking for. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't really know we don't know what we're dealing with all the time over there, and it's like, you really want to open that doorway? Like, is that something you're really wanting to do? And I mean, I always felt comfortable with that shit. Or uncomfortable, sorry. I always felt very uncomfortable with doing that to people because I just felt like, I wouldn't be helping. I'd be making it worse for you. I'm sorry. Like, you could.
Oh, I mean, we've dealt with some doozies in residential. I mean, schizophrenic people on drugs. And
yeah. Oh yeah, man. I just don't like to deal with because it's like they're trying to push their problems on you at that point. And a lot of times it's not even like a paranormal problem. It's like it's possible that some poltergeists can be created out of some of the crazy shit that some of these people go through, but I've never experienced it. Like, at least not with the residential case,
Right. Yeah. I mean, we get calls all the time. Hey, there's a demon in my house. 9 times out of 10, you go there and it's either a regular spirit or there's nothing there. It's just something they implanted in their minds.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is like, it's what they've implemented in their minds, and that's where the problem lies, right?
Yeah,
it's what they've implemented in their minds.
Tracy said she saw a team using an AI program the other night, and it cracked her up.
I mean, I think that eventually, me and KD were talking about this the other day. Like, actually, a couple of episodes, we were talking about the AI. And I think it's and he's right. It's kind of like shifting towards that. And so the problem is now, you're never going to be able to trust any audio or video or photography or anything ever again. Like, you cannot present that as evidence at this. Like, once people start implementing pieces of equipment that use AI, like, none of that fucking matters. Like, none of it is legitimate anymore. So at that point, where do we go, right? Like, what do we do? Well, data, corroborating video and audio, but data is going to be the biggest freaking thing. And AI can help with collecting data. You know what I mean? Like AI can help with recognizing patterns and like certain aspects of locations that may help to explain certain things, right? Like maybe certain locations, are on ley lines, and like, I mean, when we understand all of that stuff, but like, what if there's actually like specific changes when certain things are being like, introduced into the environment, so to speak, right? Like different people, different energies, different, how does that affect the environment? And you can measure all of that stuff. And so like when you do that and you collect enough data from different supposedly haunted and historic locations across the country, across the world, I mean, there's going to be a lot. I mean, there's going to be a lot of positives to it, I guess.
Right.
But there's going to be a lot of downsides. Like, I mean, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to trust audio, video anymore. Like, it's just all going to be like, I mean, if it's hard to trust already. And so like, I mean, like I have a really, really hard time believing anybody's stories or like any of those shows like Paranormal Caught on Camera and all those shows. Like, I think I don't believe I have like 90% of them I think are bullshit.
Right.
Like, there's no way. Like, there's no freaking way that is happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of it's obvious.
Well, that's like the ones that like to fake the stuff, that hook a string to a brick and have someone standing on the other side out of frame and just pull the brick across.
Yep. And I think that TV shows like Paranormal Caught on Camera and Haunted Case Files and all of these kinds of, those shows are the shows that are ruining the field.
Yeah.
Because now everybody and their brother that captures something weird on camera, whatever it may be, and very little attempt at debunking, because there's no like actual, you know what I mean? Like, they just have these scientific people, no, it's not even scientific people, it's paranormal like experts and whatnot, right? Like reviewing these videos and saying, oh, this is definitely a paranormal thing. So now everybody thinks everything's paranormal, including apps, including, a creaky old house. Like, there's so many things that like that is what is ruining, like giving the paranormal field a bad name, like that kind of shit. And you know how many people in this field participate in that kind of shit?
Yeah.
90%, like 95% of the community. 95%. All the people that are bitching about the field being ruined by the TikTokers and the content creators. No, guys. No. I mean, they have a huge following, but you know what? At least they're not doing that shit.
Yep.
I mean, people may disagree with me, but that is an absolute fact. Because it's incentivizing people to send in whatever and then get their 10 seconds of fame on a national TV show, right? Like, that's a dream for a lot of people.
That's like KD and I over the weekend, we were talking about one app, and it's made by Unity, which I never knew that. KD was telling me Unity makes video games. And they use that, a lot of people use that app for paranormal research, and they trust all that.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, isn't it?
Yep.
I agree with Tim.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, the thing about, I mean, I think that he's right. Real-time analog frequency. Tim, it's radio frequencies, man. Like, it's radio frequencies. Like, radio frequencies are there's a vast range of radio frequencies, and radio frequencies are really only a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Right.
So when you're talking about like radio frequencies, though, are universal. Like they've always existed. They have existed at least since the Big Bang, right? And so, like you would imagine that regardless of the state of existence in our universe, radio frequencies are across the board. Like they are available across the board. Or they're everywhere. They're around us all right now. We're using radio frequencies to do this podcast.
Yep.
But I think that, and what's interesting, dark matter, right? Like the theory and everything. You know why it's called dark matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Not really.
Gotcha. So dark matter is called dark matter because it does not interact with photons, which are light particles. Basically it's all the information that basically creates the visuals of what we perceive, what we see in our reality, right? But the universe, we only can see about like 20% of what actually makes up the entire universe. Like the other 80% is called dark matter because it does not interact with light particles.
Right.
But it's there. But since we cannot see it because it doesn't interact with light particles, it's dark matter, right? We don't know what the fuck it is, but it's there. It's all around us. All the space between me and this phone is filled with dark matter.
Right. Yeah.
And so dark matter exists within our own actual reality. We just can't see it because it doesn't interact with photons. So what exactly are we missing? And I think, but regardless, radio frequencies across the board, they're still there. Still in the same plane of existence, still in the same spectrum of, but granted, it's in a different, like the electromagnetic spectrum does not necessarily interact with the dark matter though, because but can it interact with our matter, like the matter that we deal with? And so, but I don't know if they can mess with matter, but they can probably mess with frequencies, radio frequencies, which again are universal, like gamma radiation coming from a star billions of light years away. Guess what is a radio frequency?
Yep. Tim said CERN fired up again today, probably playing with dark matter experiments again.
CERN, a lot of people blame CERN for the Mandela effect. You realize it? Think about that shit though.
Yeah.
Like that's when they started messing around with like the particle accelerator, like full on. It was around the same time that people claim Nelson Mandela died.
Right.
Which is how the beginning of the Mandela effect, which is just kind of, it starts making you think, man, like maybe, yeah. I don't know, right? It's kind of crazy.
Makes you want to go out and research it and try to find how true that stuff is. And
our universe there's so much about our universe that has not been like that we have no idea about, like that we have no remote clue on how to even detect, let alone understand. Like we're just now kind of being able to detect dark matter, like, and dark matter has always been kind of like an accepted thing within the scientific, or within the astrology community, at least, or no, astronomy community. Astrology is like horoscopes and shit. No.
Yep.
astronomy community. So like, you know, when they're only able to detect it based on gravitational lensing, right? So like once we kind of have a better grasp on the concept of dark matter, like then we can start, you know what I mean? Like we can really start diving into it more.
Yeah, that is a pretty interesting theory.
I don't know, man. CERN, it gets real fucking deep, dude. It gets really, really deep. It's a rabbit hole, man. And like, like KD and myself and JW and, you know, a lot of these other people, Tim too. You know, we just dive into these things and like we can start to see a lot of the flaws and a lot of the things within the paranormal community and within the paranormal field. And like we just kind of, we can recognize that, you know, everything that we think we know is just, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Like nothing about what we do as a paranormal community or as the, you know, what we call ourselves investigators, right, and researchers, like nothing that 95% of the community is actually doing could remotely be called research or, you know, experimentation or, you know, like really like what research is being done outside of like historical research. You know, you asking questions and ghost hunting, you know, doing a call and response thing is not research. It's doing a call and response in another haunted location. You know, so like, why isn't anybody really diving into like, you know, ways we can try to push the, I guess, the stigma out of the, you know, push it out of the public, you know, like we don't want there to be a stigma. We want to be accepted and looked at more legitimately. So, but yet we're still using a lot of this bullshit. We're still doing a lot of these stupid methods that, you know, we've been doing for 20, 30 years. I mean, like, well, how many different ways can we detect EMF? And how do we even know that EMF is like, you know, related to what we consider to be spiritual entities? How do we know that we're talking to a dead person's soul? Like, those are like, because really we can't see them. And so they could say whatever the fuck they wanted to us, and we wouldn't know the difference, would we?
Nope.
But even like with psychic mediums too, you know, like, and because I'm not gonna like discredit anybody that can pick up on a lot of these things, but like, I feel like a lot of those people could be misled because of, you know, the energy, how they are wanting to portray themselves. And I know that there are some psychic mediums out there that, like, you know, are able to kind of see through the facade. Yeah. But you know, I think that there are probably some entities out there that, you know, may be able to overcome that. You know, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's even like houses when you get a high EMF field. I mean, it makes people hallucinate. It makes them see things.
I mean, and that's just like you know what I mean? Like, that's just like and I hate to use this word, but like basic. Like, that's kind of like a very basic, like, level of kind of understanding. But like, those are things that like we should be far past within the paranormal field. And I think that people are paying attention to the ones that are just coming in, right? Like the people that are seeing the stuff on TikTok, and, you know, everybody, majority of the field, I'm not gonna say all of the field, but I include myself in this majority of the field, you know, got started ghost hunting because of what? Ghost Adventures, right? Ghost Adventures made ghost hunting cool. Let's be honest. Taps was there beforehand. We'll be, you know, you gotta give them credit, but Ghost Adventures made it cool. And so after that, but like, you know, what methods was, you know, where did they get their knowledge of any of this stuff from. And like that's where I guess my question lies, is like, where is any like hard data, you know, to say that any of this is legitimately working or telling us anything, right? Like, how do we know that that's Uncle Bob touching the REM pod? How do we know that that's what it is? If that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know, it could be literally fucking anything, but like EMF is not necessarily indicative of anything. Like a REM pod alarming is not necessarily indicative of anything. But people always assume, like this is a big problem. The first assumption is that it's paranormal. No matter what happens, everybody's first assumption is that it was a ghost, right? Like, no question. Sometimes there will be people that will be like, hold on, you know, let's double check, make sure. And there's a lot of those folks out there, which is great.
Yeah.
But there are far too many people that will just, you know, they like, meaning they haven't gotten much all night, but then all of a sudden the REM pod starts going off. And so in their mind, it's like, oh shit, you know, like there's finally, right?
Yeah.
But even in those moments, we as investigators, as researchers, have to be like, okay, it hasn't been going off all night. We changed locations and now all of a sudden it's going off. Is this really a ghost? Is there something about this room? You know, like, question it. Like, we don't question much anymore. We just assume that it's a ghost. That's the spirit of somebody talking to us. But like, what if it's something different altogether? Like, what if it's something interdimensional, or, you know, something from like a parallel reality or parallel plane of existence? Like, we don't know. We don't know what the hell we're talking to, if we're talking to something, right?
Yep.
Man, sorry, I could like go down a whole thing and say a whole bunch of things that people would not like me for, but like, I feel like it's some of these things, like, I feel like need to be said, because like, you know, I feel like the field has drifted so far from what it should be. And I mean, you, especially having been in the field for so long, like, understand that there used to be a level of, I mean, I don't want to say like professionalism. I mean, that is, yes, but like, it wasn't so much of a fucking circus.
Right.
Is the best way to put it, right? It wasn't a circus.
Yeah, it
Like,
wasn't.
And I mean, I barely like caught the tail end of like that era, and like walked into this new era. And I mean, I'm a millennial too, so like that fucking, how, you know, that seems to just be perfect, because even as a millennial, you know, I started at the end of the era where technology was like minimal at best. You know, dial-up internet. I had dial-up internet as a kid, you know.
Like, so did I.
Yeah, exactly. So like that era was like the last era of like hardened children. Like, we actually went outside, and our parents didn't want to see us inside until the street lights came on, right? Like, that's when we had to come home, or you were going to get your ass whooped. But like, nowadays with the technology, like, that's why, you know, we caught that that's why I compare myself. It's funny that it's just like, I'm a millennial in that aspect too, but you know, this new, like, they don't see any of that the way that it was before. And I mean, I'm not saying that prior to, you know, because I mean, I don't know if you could consider the field any more legitimate back then than it was now, right? I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say, because we've found new and exciting ways to do things, and new and exciting ways to find, new and exciting paths to explore, I guess, is a good thing to say. But how much further have we really gotten? You know what I mean? Like, we have such a long way to go. And like, there's not enough people that are actually doing the real legitimate research to, I mean, really try to push the understanding forward, or try to make the field look less ridiculous.
Mhm.
Like, and I don't understand how people can honestly look at the field and say, like, we need to kick out the content creators because they're the problem.
Right.
I mean, like, I'm sorry, you guys. I love every one of you, but y'all are fucking nuts. Like, y'all are nuts. We don't need to gang up on anybody because we don't like what they're doing. Like, let's gang up on the network TV. Let's gang up on Ghost Adventures. Let's gang up on the Travel Channel and all these teams that have ruined so many people's lives and careers, and nobody talks about any of that shit. You know, let's worry about those people that are causing real problems in the field, right? Like real problems. We need that. We just need to direct our energy, our anger in the right. You know, we just need to redirect.
Yeah. And that's the problem. There's a lot of drama in the field too nowadays. Everybody's at each other's throats, and
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, like it's the drama is just created by like a lot of it is mob mentality. You know, basically people ganging up because, you know, somebody has to be a fucking whistleblower. You know, and I mean, I hate I personally am not a fan of whistleblowers. I mean, they need to be here, and I understand that because there are a lot of serious things that need to be addressed and put out there and exposed, right? Because there are a lot of people that really go through some fucked up shit. But with regards to like the way that people will call people in the field out because they're doing something that's bullshit or that they think is, you know, that they don't like or that they think is a cancer in this community. Like, you know, that's like that is just a straight attack. Like that's not trying to rid the field or make the field better. Like that's you know, not agreeing with somebody and their methods and what they're doing. And so you're going to put out a post to try to hurt that person, to try to ruin their career, to try to harm their image in some way. And you're using the guise of trying to help, you know, save people from having to go through what I went through. You know, it's like, okay, you weren't the first freaking person to go through that. First of all, second of all, you know, if there was such a problem all this time, I mean, maybe there were misunderstandings or whatever, but I mean, like, I just don't think that it's worth the time to go and attack people like that. And so that, you know, that's all representative. Like that all represents the community. Like that is what the community looks like to the outside world. And nobody thinks about that. They think that, oh, we need to remove the problems. It's like, well, then let's remove 90% of you because, you know, and I mean, obviously, like, that's not what the solution needs to be. Like, that's not the solution. We just need to realize where we need to focus solving the problems. You know what I mean? Like, our priorities on problems. Like, there are certain things that really should be addressed before other things instead of trying to like turn against one of our own, I guess, right? I don't know. Well, I'm starting to feel more and more like George Carlin.
Right. Well, a lot of it too, people think that they're better than this one, that one, and we're all the same in this field. I mean, maybe we all have different skill sets, but everybody's pretty much equal. Do your thing and just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. Because, like, I don't know if I necessarily agree that all people are equal. You know, because, like, a person's value is dependent upon what they're providing to the table, you know? Like, so, I mean, just because, you know, we're, like, if there's a weekend warrior ghost hunter, like, I would not put them on the same platform that, like, somebody like me or, like, somebody like you, like, people that are actually doing the shit, like, actual very passionate individual dedicating a lot of their life to this. Like, I would not, you know what I mean? Like, we're not the same. We're not the fucking same. Again, I almost get offended by that too, because it's like, that's that, what is it, the socialism kind of mindset?
Yeah, kind of,
like, everybody's equal. Everybody gets everything. We're all the same. We're all equal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't mean to like, I wasn't trying to like
No, you're good. You're
It
good.
wasn't like anything against you or trying to be offensive to you, because I wasn't. Like, that's not
No,
the thing.
you're
But
good.
I hope you like understand where I'm coming from, though. Like,
Yeah, I understand where
you
you're
know,
coming from. I mean, people like us that been in it a long time that are actually trying to do it legitimate, and then you get these fakers out there that, oh, this place is mine. You can't go there. We deal with some of that too.
oh yeah, I mean, if that's fine, I mean, go ahead. The
Right.
market for paranormal locations is more saturated than ever before.
Yep.
If I can't get
There's
into one,
there's
then there's
enough for everybody.
500,000 other ones I can get into, right?
Yeah, there's enough for everybody.
Oh, there's more than enough for everybody. Honestly, like, if you really, like, I'm one of those people that I truly believe that if I wanted to, like, go out in the middle of the fucking dog park, like right out in the middle of a meadow, grass field, right, and just turn on a ghost box, if I call out to them, they will come.
Yep.
It may take a minute, but I believe that if you open up that doorway, especially within ITC, like, you use a communication device and you open up that doorway,
Yep. You're
they will
gonna
come.
let them through.
Yeah. Like, I
I
don't
agree.
believe that it's necessarily a location. I mean, if you're trying to reach specific individuals, or you're trying to find out specific things about that specific location, like, that's, you know what I mean? But like, I mean, I don't know. I think people get petty as shit, and they think that, like, oh, people are going to come in and try to, you know, step on my toes or whatever. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, and there's too much of that in the field. And I mean, I get it. Yes. Mariah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
God, I hate that shit. Perry Unity. God.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
not
what
a
a
fan of it
stupid
either.
idea. I mean, I get the concept, okay? And the concept is good. It's a very great idea, but just like people that have a lot of ideology, like, there's a lot of the new generation, right? They're very idealistic. But there's a reason it's idealism and not realism, because, like, this is what we would like it to be, but that's not how it really is. Like,
No.
people, for some reason, we prevent ourselves from the concept of para-unity. We cannot just get along because everybody has to, it's pettiness, man. It's so much pettiness. And it's like,
Yeah.
just focus on what we're doing, but everybody's got to create content and put out something for people to see. And then, it's like their faces everywhere, but no, it's the focus is on the location, or on the, on the study. And it's like, well, you spent a whole lot of time trying to get people to like and follow your shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you start looking at people's motives, man. It's like,
Yeah, true.
are you really doing what you say you're doing? Is it really about that, or is it about you and your adventures? And I mean, if that's the case, then that's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to, don't have to be ashamed of that. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But don't sit there and claim that you're, yeah, exactly, Mariah. We all should not get a trophy for running a race. That is
Yeah.
exactly freaking right. No, Mariah is, man, no, that is so true. And I hate the fact that, like, that's kind of the idea that they're trying to put out there. And it's like, no, it's like trying to compare, like, when you're looking at sports, right? It's like saying that all NBA players in history were exactly the same,
Yeah.
because they put on an NBA jersey. They played for the NBA, right? So they're all the same.
Right.
Like, no, I don't know if
But they're
I'd put,
not.
like, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant in the same class with, like, uh fucking Daniel Gibson, and, like, I'm trying to think of, like, no name players, Mark Madsen, and
Right.
like, nobody's ever heard of these guys. But yeah, man, it's all just a bunch of crap. Like, that's why I don't even, like, I used to run Paracons. I used to host them. I used to do all that, but, like, I realized it was a lot of work for, like, no money. I mean, I wasn't making any money. In fact, a lot of times I was losing money, I was paying out of pocket just to make the event happen because I wanted to get these people out to this location and try to bring a lot of attention to it. And for a while, it was a good formula until, everybody started fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember one of my first events was Hunt the Town. And then shortly after, there was a Hunt the Town in Antioch, Illinois. And then it kind of spread across the country in a bunch of different, towns and different manners. And like, I don't know, then everybody for a long time felt like they were coordinators, like event coordinators. Like they knew exactly how to do it. Everybody was an event coordinator all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
And now people have figured out the formula that you don't necessarily have to own a location in order to be able to go something for free or to, help with, helping to be involved in a location. You don't have to own one. You can be involved and do a lot, help with tours and everything without owning it. And so now everybody's started to figure that shit out. So now everybody runs a location, right? So there's no shortage of locations. There's definitely no shortage. But it's all led to this moment over the last 5 years. It's kind of wild. You really think about it. It is kind of fucking wild. Like over the last 5 years, since 2018, I guess, really. 2017, 2018 is when it really kind of went like that. You notice that?
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that.
And now it's like everybody's a content creator. It's it's almost like a new fad. It's weird.
Right. Well, I used to be
what's
a DJ
the next big thing? And for a while everybody was a medium.
Yeah.
And that's still the case. Everybody and their sister is a psychic medium or a sensitive or an empath or and it's funny because every time I deal with these teams, every time a team comes into one of my locations, that person has to announce that they're a psychic medium. They have to say that. And it's I don't care. You don't need to tell me. First of all, and I don't understand why, if you are truly a psychic medium, a lot of true psychic mediums do not introduce themselves as psychic mediums.
Right.
They don't go around glorifying it kind of thing. I mean, they a lot of them will take advantage of it, which is, that's life. You got to do what you got to do to pay the bills, and you take advantage of your talents. That's the dream. That's the American dream, is being able to do what we love to do and make a living, right? And be able to pay the bills, right? That's the American dream. And, and that's great. But, when somebody comes up to me, just a random team, I can just tell, you're probably not a psychic medium. You have intuition. Yeah. Intuition is if you don't know what intuition is, guys, intuition is the ability to put two and two together. It's the ability to figure out things based on senses you can sense there's tension in a room by the way that their body language is, right? That's intuition, is saying that, oh, these guys just had a fight or they arguing or something, right? So now you go into a haunted location. Oh, it's an asylum. I bet there was some suffering here. So and you don't think about it, of course, right? You're not going to think about the fact that you're going to do that. But what do you think of when you think about a haunted asylum?
Oh, you're thinking about people going crazy, killing each other.
Abuse, neglect.
Yep, a lot of abuse and neglect in them.
Like restraints, the padded cells and stuff, right? That's what you think of. And even if you don't, even if you're not looking into it or even consciously thinking about it, your brain already has that idea in its mind. So you can go into that if you know anything about a location, anything at all, even what it was, if you know what it was, it's out the window. Bias is out the window. I mean, it's completely biased. People don't think about it, but it really is. And so they'll think that they're putting two and two together because this is what they're picking up on, or this is just a thought that popped into their head, and they think that that's They have a thought they have something that pops into their head, and they think that it's they're reading, like, and I know I probably laughs at this too, but like I know that there are some psychics out there that will, that they claim that their communication or like the things that they're picking up on are literally just like the thought that pops into their head. Whatever whatever, like if they're in a schoolroom and they think of, like your imagination runs wild. You go into a classroom at a school, right? And you instantly like imagine like kids being in this room, right? All the freaking, you think big desk, you think of all this stuff. I mean, it's just so obvious. Like it just gets so obvious, and it's a shame. And I know that everybody wants to, though. Like that's the thing, is like everybody wants to be a paranormal researcher or a paranormal investigator or a psychic medium or that, right? Like they want to be this, but like, sometimes you just can't do it. Like, especially psychic mediumship and sensibilities. Like, you're not John Edwards. John Edwards is a perfect example of intuition over psychic abilities. Like, just call out a random generic name into this section of a crowd and hope that one person responds. Like if you see one person's reaction, you know what I mean? Like, but it's so vague questioning. It's like, oh, man. I'm just bitching at this point.
Well, that's just like your magicians that do all the mind tricks on people.
Well, yeah, it's illusion.
Yep.
But yeah, an illusion, you play it, you feed off of the crowd a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with comedians. You feed off of the crowd, and you can kind of tell what's working, what's not, what's real, but intuition is just a basic human instinct.
Right.
Like doesn't mean you're a psychic and you're communicating with the dead or with something with beings from another realm or plane of existence.
Yeah.
There's very few that I actually believe wholeheartedly. Like, it takes a lot of like working with them in order for me to like really trust them. So like somebody coming up and saying like, oh yeah, I'm a psychic medium or I'm a sensitive. So, I do the only time it's actually like really relevant to me, like with a psychic medium, is like for the history tour. Like when okay, the teams will come, I don't want to give information if somebody's at least claiming to be a sensitive, because right off the bat, but I appreciate the legitimacy of like the attempt at the legitimacy of that, like like they're trying to eliminate the chance of like, her hearing anything or him hearing anything, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know enough about John Edwards' other work. I know that his TV show and that thing that he used to do with the crowd readings and stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in gallery readings either. I mean, I know people swear by them. I know people believe in them wholeheartedly, and I mean, I'm not gonna argue with somebody about something that they may have experienced or whatever in a gallery reading. But from the skeptical side, from the scientific side, like from the scientific viewpoint and like hard data, hard proof type of thing, it's like really hard for somebody to like, for me at least, to look into that and see and think like, and not like wonder like, okay, I mean, you see, I mean, and I know that you understand what I'm saying, Mariah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's And I appreciate Mariah's perspective in a lot of ways too, because she does actually like to use the equipment, like the equipment that to more or less verify what she's picking up on. And like there's several that will do that, and that's the kind of shit that like I appreciate, right? Because it's like you have those abilities, use them. Like, why not you become an antenna? Like, you are the one that has the ability to communicate with these things or interact with them or pick up on them or whatever. Like, you should be the one holding the recorder or the, you know what I mean? Because it's like, if they might feel more comfortable approaching that person than someone like me who has no real abilities, at least none that I can control, you know? Yeah, there's too many of them. I guess that's my point overall, is like there's too many what we used to call charlatans in this field.
Yeah.
And like, but a lot of these charlatans are right there sitting next to us that we consider to be legitimate people, you know, that we put on a pedestal. But like, you know, like it's a popularity contest above everything. And
yeah, you're right.
If you think I'm wrong, anybody thinks I'm wrong, come fight me. Rippy Dukes.
David Glidden, Magic 8 Ball never steers me wrong.
Yeah, David. Yeah, that's right. I trust the Magic 8 Ball like more than anything, dude. Dave's a good dude. I like Dave.
Tim says,
Tim, I would. Yeah. I mean, I agree to an extent. I think some people are. Well, I mean, yeah, I think that everybody is to an extent, right? Yeah, like you said, but obviously, like guys like Mike, my partner Mike Ring, like that dude is just like that dude is a lighthouse in the darkness. Like he is going to attract them and bring them, you know, bring them to him. It's weird. Like wherever he goes, man, it's just like if there's something there, he's gonna find it. It's those people. But like I don't know if like somebody like me, I'm not nearly as big of as an antenna. And I don't know if I have the ability to tap into it. People have told me I am, but like I feel like I'm too guarded. Like I'm too like logically minded where like I don't, you know what I mean? What place do I feel that empaths have in the field? I mean, everybody can have a place in this field. Like, there's nobody that should be like, you know what I mean? Like, excluded. I don't believe in excluding anybody. Like, even if there are the charlatans out there, like, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what field you're in, right? There's mimickers, there's charlatans, there's fakers, there's people that will copy your work and put out a fucking mimic, like an off brand, right? We got all the off brands, right? But I think that empaths, I mean, I think that empaths really, there's empathy involved. I mean, everybody has a level of empathy. I mean, some people don't, I guess. Like guys like fucking Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, those guys don't have empathy. That's that serial killer. That's that serial killer gene, though. But I think that empaths have an ability to possibly connect or feel. I mean, they can feel emotions that, you know, that may be, you know, that are like resonating in a location, like because all of it is energy that like I think is held in a lot of the locations, you know, and you can believe like the stone tape theory, or you can believe the, you know, all the different, there's so many different theories about it, but I think that energy resides, especially after like a high energy event, like a murder or something tragic or horrible. Right. But I mean, and empaths can feel that energy strong. And I know they can. Like I've seen my wife, you know, we initially thought that she was an empath. Of course, she's a full blown like psychic medium, you know, but we thought at first she was an empath because a lot of times she would just, start crying in the middle of an investigation, like we didn't understand. And there's stuff like that. I mean, that kind of stuff. I think there are places for that. But I don't necessarily believe that that's an ability that should be glorified or necessarily like put up on a pedestal, because I
Right.
don't think that it's I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It's like when you start talking about like it's kind of like people in the public that are putting out their political opinion on a certain subject, and it's like, I don't know if you're necessarily qualified to be putting your, everybody's got to put their opinion out there. Everybody's got to have the voice, right? Or they have to be heard. They have to feel like they have something to say. But like, is that somebody that we should listen to, right?
Mhm.
And honestly, I forgot where I was going with that, but sorry. I got distracted by a different thought that I had in my head, and then all of a sudden it like went. ADD, man, that's what happens.
Right. David Glidden said, "I predict the Bears will keep Fields and trade in the number one."
Yep, I've been saying that since the start. Don't draft Caleb Williams, man. Do not draft him. I mean, he may be a generational talent, but in 2 or 3 years, there will be the next generational talent. I mean, and honestly, there are guys that were better suited for the NFL than Caleb Williams is. I mean, he's never an on-time thrower. He's horrible at that. He hasn't had that's for another time, David. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah.
Anybody in my audience has any more questions, shoot them out in the chat.
Yeah. But yeah, no, empathy, empaths, there is a place for them, and I think that they can be helpful in certain. I mean, they're always helpful. They can be helpful with a lot of these investigations, especially if there's an entity that wants to portray its emotions, or try to like give a message or something, right? But like, I don't necessarily think that it's something that needs to be introduced. Like, you don't need to introduce yourself as an empath. It's okay. Like, you don't need to. It's okay. Sorry. Man,
that's like the whole REM pod
can
theory
you tell
too,
that I'm tired of a lot of shit?
Yep. But that's like the REM pod theory too. I mean, a lot of people, they call that evidence, but they pick up on a frequency just like they'll pick up on your walkie-talkie frequency.
Oh,
You
yeah.
squeeze that
And
button,
baby
you're
monitor
setting
frequency. It's really that citizens band frequency, man. It's really what it is. It's the CB frequencies that they can pick up on. But like, I mean, it's not even just like if you have an HVAC unit in the building, like that will set it off.
Yeah.
But even if, I mean, and you can, like, people will try to present REM pod interaction as like intelligent, based on like answering questions and seemingly answering questions and, to the questions, or seemingly answering the questions by using like a yes or no response sometimes, or like they'll set it off until you ask them to walk a step back, right? And I mean, maybe,
Right.
maybe, but like, how do we know that that's a dead person like doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you can. I mean, and it's hard. It's hard, man. I don't know. It's hard, man, because like I'm so skeptical of so much shit. Like, the longer I do this, the more I start to realize that what we believe is like paranormal, like all the shit that we have learned from, really, like, it's like a mass belief system of like the way that the paranormal works, or like the way spiritual world works, right? Like, everybody thinks it's like, oh, somehow EMF is involved somehow, or like that they are made of EMF or use EMF, right? Like they have to charge up. Like, there's all these different little theories that people have, but like nobody ever questions them. Right. And then they just go in believing that, whatever it is, that's a ghost. That's what it is. And I mean, I'm even starting to become skeptical that like we're even communicating with what we believe to be spirits. Like I don't necessarily believe that it's a dead person. Like I don't know. And I mean it's hard for me to say that like confidently at least. But at
Right.
least at least feel good about it because like I know there are a lot of psychic mediums out there that, have the ability to see things, whatever. And I don't want anybody to take what I'm saying as in the wrong way, I guess, you know what I mean? Um, and so, and that's, really where I just have a lot of trouble with it. And I just think that, um, oh yeah, like what Mariah, and that is a good point, Mariah. And that is something that like I've spent a lot of my career trying to understand. And it's like, I'm actually attempting to like, and I'm not doubting it. It's one of those things that like I have tried to make an effort to prove that it's there, but
Mhm.
I can't find anything. Or I mean, there's very few times that I'm actually like convinced, like, oh shit. But like I want to understand the workings of it, and like so that's why JW and I are doing this documentary in April, based on the project World Gate, which is all like I don't know if anybody watched the Conjuring House experiments. That was
Mhm.
what the experiment was that did not nearly get enough like explanation, frame of reference. Like nobody knew what the hell the experiment even was. Like they
Right.
didn't put any kind of description or documentation on it. They just kept saying CIA, right? Like CIA, the CIA, right? Because that's all it was. That's all they said. And it's like there's so much more to it. We're gonna be having human participants that will be, subjected to specific frequencies. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point, Mariah. Like it is true. I mean, but as investigators, and as researchers, we should be asking the question. We should be trying to understand, but like too many people will like block the shit out. And granted, I may not understand I may not even have a really good grasp of what it's like to be a psychic medium, and I don't like, but I'm trying to. I want to understand is the whole point. Like, I want to, and I am actively making an effort to understand. You know what I mean? And so, like, I've had plenty of those. Um, I've had plenty of instances of, like testing, like trying to, put the abilities to the test. I do that with anybody. Like, that's one of the things I do. If they introduce themselves to me as a sensitive, I'll put them to the test.
Right.
Like, and maybe it's one of my first instincts is to like put them to the test. Right. Exactly, Mariah. Exactly. Like, you're really like, you should know. You should know what city we're in. Like, why are you asking a spirit that? Like, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why, like, I've become so I don't know, like I stopped doing the events. I stopped like really I stopped ghost hunting. That's what my problem is. That I stopped ghost hunting. I don't ghost hunt anymore. Like I don't go out and find these locations. Like go out to these big locations. Like I don't go. Like I mean, I have locations that I can investigate at any time, but I don't typically do it. And the reason is not because um, it's not because I don't like investigating anymore, but it's because I feel like there's so much that like I can only do something so many times before I feel like I've hit a wall. And like, how do I, you know what I mean? Like when we're talking about capturing evidence, like legitimate evidence, like I'm not trying to go and get another EVP or another ghost box response. Or, like it's the same shit. Like where has that gotten us over the last 30, 40 years of paranormal investigating? Where's any of it gotten us? Like I don't feel like we're any further along than we were when Ed and Lorraine Warren were here, as far as legitimacy or like
Right.
being viewed as a legitimate thing. I mean, maybe we are more accepted now, than we ever were before because it's become more mainstream. But like as far as our understanding, as far as like the practices and like all of the things, like I don't think we're any further along. Like I think we're
Right.
in the same damn position we were 40 years ago. It does. So like, why would I go out there unless I was, unless there's something that I'm going to be trying or something that we're going to be doing that actually has some kind of significance beyond, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like beyond just the normal EVP that I've gotten 600,000 times, right?
Yeah.
And that's so hard when you hit that point. It's like, you just, it's like very hard because like I started feeling like I'm abandoning my team. I'm abandoning it. Like I'm abandoning, like I've lost my fire or whatever, right? And it's like people don't understand, man. It's like when you get so far, you're not content anymore. Like I can't be content with the same thing for,
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Like, and it's not doing us in the field any good to be content. And I think way
Right.
too many damn people are content. Everybody's content. There's like a very small group of select people that are not content with the way that things are in the community and are actually willing to step up and do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like actually willing to put the work in and try to do something and a lot of those people don't go on social media and blast their work everywhere. You know what I mean? Like they do
Right.
it behind closed doors, but those are the people that are really doing the work, like the actual work. I mean, Mariah knows several. Carl Fisher is a perfect example of a guy that is doing some like this dude builds some crazy ghost boxes, but you would never know. You've never heard of him. Never heard of
Right.
him. He does a lot
Yeah,
of
this is
his
the first
own
time I've heard of
designs.
him.
Huh?
This is the first time I've heard of him since you mentioned him.
Well, I mean, and he's just one example of
Right.
many people that are, just not putting it all out there like that. And right, right, he is. He's a great guy. But like, those are the people that are actually really doing research and really doing work to try to advance the community. And I think that too many people in this community now at this point believe that doing documentaries or on a location that's been documentaryized
Mm-hmm.
like for like 30 times by 30 different teams, and then they put it's their own version of a story that has been told and told time and time again, right?
Yeah.
Like how many more documentaries are, I mean, could you even call them documentaries? Like what's a documentary exactly?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, can you tell me, like, can anybody tell me what an actual, like, what is the definition of a documentary? Like, I personally do not know. That's why I'm asking.
I don't either. I mean, everything's so played out nowadays, and it's just
Like,
over and over again.
well, right, but like like, long before any of the paranormal documentaries, what would you consider to be a documentary? When you thought of a documentary, what was it? It was like hard facts being brought
Yeah.
to the thing and like presenting a case, like presenting facts and building a case towards something that you're presenting to the viewer to let them kind of make their own judgment, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I
Yep.
guess technically it is a presentation of something to allow people to make their own judgment. In that sense, yes, it can be considered a documentary. But like very little people who come with like hard facts about exactly. They place their own freaking narrative and it does not make it true. And I mean, they can try to make it more exciting or whatever, but like, it's the same shit, different people. Like it's
Right.
all y'all are just fucking finding new ways to ghost hunt. I mean, you can ghost hunt all you want, but it's so ghost hunting. It's not,
Yeah.
man. Sorry, I put you. I'm gonna step down off my soapbox now.
No, you're good.
I'll step down.
Tracy says I prefer old cemeteries and stuff that really nobody goes to.
Yeah, see, I don't even know about cemeteries though. I've always questioned, like, I guess I always thought logically about it. Like, if I was a ghost, or if I was a dead person, I guess why would I hang around a cemetery? Unless I
Right.
was like, and I mean, I know that is the idea of like being trapped, like spirits can be trapped in certain locations. But I think that is probably more likely that where their plane of existence is probably like, I don't know if they experience time and space the way that we do. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we don't know, but I would imagine that it's probably not the way that we view it. It's not our perception. Their perception might be different. And so, if that's the case, like, I don't imagine that. I mean, unless there was some kind of weird, like, because we don't know what goes on, they may be trapped somewhere, like something's holding them there. But like, I don't see why any spirit would want to just hang around the graveyard. You know what I mean? You would think that they'd want to go somewhere that's like more meaningful to them. Like, that's why I look at like schools. That's why I think schools are haunted, is because like, kids have some of their best memories and some of their worst memories in these schools. Like, a lot of kids make lifelong friends in elementary school.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Tracy. I mean, that is that is very accurate. That is
And
very
I agree
accurate.
that theory with schools, because I work for a school district that's over 100 years old, and I've seen and heard a lot of stuff in there that I wasn't able to debunk or find where it came from.
Well, I mean, you think about, some of the things that we experienced growing up, significant memories, a lot of them seem to come from, their school days, right? Their days as children when times were less stressful for them in most cases. And I'm not, obviously there are some children that have gone through some seriously bad shit, but, like, I think that if they had the bet, like, I would go back to my old elementary school where I met my best friend of 50 years or something, right? Like, I would go, and walk the halls and be like, man, that was my class. That was my teacher. This is my, like, and I mean, obviously not just there, but I don't know, because like, I mean, what if I would think that they would have the ability to go anywhere. Like, but that's just my, my own hypothesis.
Right.
98% of paranormal investigators have no idea. Have no idea of how their equipment works, much less, and have a reasonable hypothesis about it. Yeah. And that's why, like, it's so easy for a lot of these, and I mean, I don't like to, like, call specific things out, but like, these shops, like, like ghoststop.com and these kind of stores, they sell different variations of the same crap. And I mean, some of it is different and unique and interesting, but I mean, I guess, I don't know, like, but that's right. Like, what basis is it, like, what's the theory behind it, first of all? And second of all, exactly how does it work? How does it operate? Like, if I were to give this to a spirit, how easy would it be for them to figure out? And so I always try to use the, like, especially when we're talking about apps, like, I always use the analogy of like, okay, so go back like 4 generations, like your great, great, great grandfather, and hand him your smartphone and tell him to send you a text, or give him a smartphone and tell him to send you a text. Like, he's going to look at you like, what the fuck is this thing? Like, they have no idea what a cell phone was 4 generations ago, or 4, you know what I mean? Like, so when we're talking about spirits and, entities that, I mean, even if you start getting into like the whole dark matter idea, cosmic, energy and all this stuff. I mean, like radio frequencies are universal. They are there. Like they cannot be affected by us. Like we can tune into them and we can utilize them as carrier waves to broadcast, but we cannot, like, you know what I mean? Like we don't have any control over them, like the frequencies themselves. Like they're just always there. And so I think, like, if we're going to be looking at what might be easier to utilize for anything living within our plane of existence, is it radio frequencies that have always existed and that and always will exist, like they're always going to be there? Or is it your miniature computer that we have now that really only started to advance in the last 10 years? And let's be honest, like like somebody from 1702 is not going to know what the fuck a cell phone is. They're going to look at you and think you're a witch. It's going to be the Salem witch trials all over again.
Right.
So I don't know. That's why I prefer analog, like Tim says, analog technology. Go back to that other comment. What was that? This one. No, that one. Which one was that? Yeah. I've been looking for years trying to find out where the idea that a ghost or spirit can manipulate or produce EMF. We literally just talked about that. Like that's I'm still trying to figure that out because I don't know who came up with these rules, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out.
Right.
Like, and I've been preaching this for a while. Like who decided that this is what they interact with? Like who decided that that's what we're supposed to be looking for? Like who determined all this? Oh, I know. I mean, parapsychology, I mean, that's a whole, like, that's where you can differentiate between, like, that's why I think that there's a huge difference between, like, a ghost hunter, an investigator, and a researcher. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there is differences. And I think that people use those words loosely, very, very loosely. Mm-hmm. And I think that it kind of dampens or, I guess what's the word? It's kind of like, I can't think of the word off the top of my head. Saturating it, kind of thing. Like, it's making it help me out, man. What is the word I'm thinking of? It's like impure. It's contaminating it. It's when you're a bad influence.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like when you are ruining something. What is that fucking word? Like, what is the thing I'm thinking of?
I know what you're talking
regardless. Anyways, yeah, regardless. I mean, I don't know. Like it's all just being really, washed up, washed out, washed down. And so, like, I mean, but that's across the board. It's not just with investigators and, even psychics. Like even people with like genuine people that have people that have genuine abilities, right? Like they're being tarnished. Tarnished was the freaking word I was thinking. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate you helping me out there, bud. No, but it's tarnishing the people that do put in the work. And I guess someone recorded an EVP and had an EMF spike at the same time and saw that as a correlation and ran with it. I mean, that's possible. I know that a lot of it came from like Bocce's work. I know a lot of it came from like Tesla's work. Like Tesla, he was working with electrical frequencies. And a lot of that research, Mariah may be able to help me out here with this. But I know, what is it? Martello Bocce was I know that he was doing a lot of work. Constantine Rodave was another one that did a lot of EVP work, a lot of the frequency stuff. But I think like EMF, you'd probably want to look more towards like Tesla, because like Tesla was really the one that was fucking around with electrical frequencies. Like to the extent that, I mean, really nobody was doing it on the level that he was, right? So I mean, but like Tesla was hearing voices within the electrical frequencies. I mean, but he thought he was like talking to interdimensional beings. I'm pretty sure. Um, and Edison thought he was talking to like, I don't remember. No, Edison I think thought it was extraterrestrial beings, and Tesla thought it was interdimensional beings. I think. Like it would, neither one of them thought it was ghosts, but like they thought that there were voices. They could hear voices within the frequencies, and we're talking about a time back when there were no radio broadcasts or any of this stuff. So like it wouldn't make sense. Like I mean, this is the type of like this is the copper coil you put the needle on it type radio reception. Like you're not like that's how they were like tapping in. I mean, that was one of the later versions of it, but you get my point.
Yeah.
What's your theory on the white noise? Huh?
What's your theory on white noise?
I think a lot of people white noise. I mean, white noise is literally just like the best way to describe white noise is like all audible sound frequencies all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what white noise basically is. It's like just everything all at once, and that's what you hear. But then you got your pink noise, which kind of like includes like the lower frequencies and focuses more on lower frequencies than the higher frequencies. And like they have those different color noises, I guess. But I think white noise I think it's all beneficial. Like it's all helpful. I mean, and I use that, as for lack of a better term, seem to be able to use the white noise. They seem to see. I picture it more like Legos, right?
Right.
Like, and that's how I approach like my ITC work, like with ghost boxes, right? Like I like a fast sweep rate, like fast, like all the way the fuck up, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason I do that is because when you do that, your audio becomes just little bits and pieces of speech. If you have a real ghost box, like an analog ghost box, but if that's a different story. But when you do that, like I believe that they're able to like take those little tiny bits and pieces and just kind of like stack them and make words almost. Like, and I know that's probably not exactly what what I mean, but like I have a visual in my head of like them building these words out of the little bricks of whatever they're picking up from the jumbleness, right?
Right.
Yeah, that is too. And that's that's a whole nother rabbit hole that Mariah's talking about. I mean, Mariah knows some shit. Mariah gets real deep with it, and so like, yeah, Mariah, I could sit here, you and I could have a full fucking long. That's a whole nother discussion, man. That's a whole nother discussion. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, like our spirit box, my one member, she just bought a reverse sweep that KD did.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to try it out on our next investigation.
I like reverse speech, man. I like reverse speech because it's an extra layer of like added. I mean, I hate to even use the word legitimacy, but like validity almost. I guess at least it can like I like the layers of like I want evidence that it has a lot of trouble being debunked. Like if it can even be debunked, like that's what I'm looking for. So like if trying to figure out ways to like. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it starts getting really, really hard to figure that kind of stuff out. Right. Especially because like everything can be picked apart. Like a lot of it. I mean, I guess not everything, but most of what we put out there can be like picked apart,
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we get to something that like cannot or like has a really hard time being debunked? The way you do that is by adding layers of challenges, so to speak, like layers of steps that would need to line up specifically for this to happen. Like, and so that's why, like, I've even been working on a project, and I mean, I can't dive into it too much because I have competitors of the show that I'm on that pay attention, I guess, and they've taken a couple of my ideas that I've seen on their show, so I have to be careful about it.
Right.
But like, there's something that I'm looking at where it's going to need a sequence of 2 specific values in order to trigger the device. And I'm not going to say what the values are, or like what they're actually looking for, because that's going to be something that has not typically been done specifically, by, at least not that I've seen, except for one person. And this specific person was a former psychic soldier in the Stargate Project during the 90s.
Right. Yeah, that
So,
would
like,
definitely be interesting.
you know what the Stargate Project was, right?
I've heard of it. I've never really dove into it and researched it, but
Well, the Stargate Project was weaponizing psychic abilities, like remote viewing and stuff like. Have you ever heard of the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yep.
For George Clooney, like, that's the Stargate Project. That's what it was. It was basically covering the life of a psychic soldier who was re-recruited to come back, right? But like, the whole idea was that they could sit 10 feet away, 10 or 15 feet away from one of those fainting goats.
Yeah.
And the fainting goats, they don't really faint. They just, like, when they get excited enough, their muscles stiffen up and they just fall. But the whole idea was that you would have to sit in a chair and, without moving a muscle, without making any facial expressions, be able to make this goat's blood adrenaline run fast enough that it's going to fall over. But how do you do that without scaring it somehow? Well, you have to be able to, you know what I mean?
Right.
You have to be able to remotely do it. And so that's like part of the whole things that he had to do. But like, he had to learn a lot of, he learned a lot of different things about, I mean, you think about the government and the studies that they're doing, the scientists that they have on their staff, like, that they hire, best in the fucking world, right? And so they're finding out certain things. And so he applied some of the things that he learned to this device. And I had one at one point, and I gave it away to somebody who, at the time, I felt like could utilize it more than I could. Right. Now I have this sick feeling in my stomach every time I think about it, because, man, I really wish I would have not given that thing away. But I'm basing this new device off of that kind of concept, but I think, like, I like the idea of having to have, like, a specific sequence, almost like a pin code of values that they have to match up in order to communicate. And these values could be way across the board from each other. And that's the whole point, is that they're able to manipulate. Right. And so, like, when they have to manipulate it in order to make these wild set of values happen in sequence, like, how do you, like, at what point do you start, like, like, how does that happen? Like, how do these specific things happen? Like, I mean, it could just be a random chance, but how many times are those random chances going to happen before, it starts to be like, okay, might be something to it. But, like, that's why I like JW's devices, JW IDC devices, like the direct link and all that, because one of the things that is very unique about the direct link, and I mean, it can happen with any device that has echo and reverb in the circuitry. Like, and I'm not talking pedal, I'm talking like actual circuitry. If you have your echo and reverb effects turned up to where, like, everything that comes through the speaker has an echo or has the echo reverb effects on it, but then you get some voices that come through that don't. Yeah. Like, those are things that are hard to explain, because how does a voice get through? Because, like, you can't skip steps in circuitry. Like, it doesn't, You can't just
Right.
jump a circuit and like, completely skip past it. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. If it came from the audio source, then it should have the effects. But then you get these voices occasionally that come through, and it's like, did that repeat? No, I didn't think it did. It's just like, I get way more excited about something like that than I do about anything, because like that right there to me is more legitimate than 90% of the fucking evidence that's presented today. Because it's like one of those things that's like, how does that happen? We know how circuitry and electricity works. Like, we know how things flow between wire from one circuit to another. We understand that is a factual thing that we see, and we can test it and we can prove it 1,000 times over. But how does, you know what I mean? Like that, the only way we can explain that is that it's some kind of a direct applied voice, meaning that something applied its voice after the echo and reverb circuit. And that is what drives me.
I agree.
That's right, Mariah. That's right, Mariah.
I mean, I've got the SB7 one, but I try to run mine in like AM and reverse sweep instead. Because
you do know that with the SB7, SB11, anything that's like linear, I mean, you could do it forward or backward, it's going to sound exactly the same.
Yeah, it does. That's why
it doesn't matter which direction you're scanning through the channels. Like, the person's going to say, once it hits that range of frequencies, it's going to sound exactly the same, whether you're coming in from the front or the back.
But Missouri here, we don't have much AM. We have more FM.
Right. Yeah. So, no, I know that like the further towards the middle of the country, you get like where there's less population. Because most of the population in the United States resides on either the East Coast or the West Coast.
Yeah.
Like that's like 80% of the population. And there's like the 20% of the population that's like in Montana, Missouri, like the real Midwestern states, right? But like, the more inner United States that you get, the less people you see. And so, yeah, no, I believe that 100%. You probably get better AM signal at night, though.
Yeah. And that's why I don't use it as much. We'll use like KD's Inkbox more than we will the SB7s and stuff.
Shortwave, baby.
Yep.
That shortwave on the shortwave on the ink boxes, man. I don't know. He's found it, man. He found that shit. He found the right. He did.
We used it one night on investigation on a bridge, and I mean, we didn't even pick up a radio station coming off of it. Inkbox just stayed quiet the whole night.
And I love those times.
Yep.
And people look at me sometimes like, why are you excited about, or why is that a good thing that you didn't get anything? Because I know the device was working the way that it was supposed to. Like nothing, it wasn't getting any false positives, at least. Yep. And I mean, granted, but I like it when these devices are doing things that they're not supposed to do. That's evidence. That is evidence. But we make these devices do things that they're not supposed to do anyways, though. So it's, I don't know. It's hard, man. It's a real thick line between the black and white. A lot of gray there.
Well, that reverse sweep that KD made for my friend Julie, he turned it on there at that convention, and Julie walked by and he went, "Hello?"
Yeah. Reverse speech. I like reverse speech, but that's why, is because it's an added layer of, like if something, one word in a reverse speech is not really significant to me, because there are a lot of words that when they're reversed, they sound like something else.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that too. But like if you start getting like 4 or 5 words that come through forward, when everything's in reverse. Then we've got something real significant there. Because that's like, there's no way that these specific words said forward would say so many words together backwards, right? I'm sure there are, though. I'm sure there's some combination of words out there, right?
We were talking about the old vinyl records when you spin them backwards, and they always had that message.
Oh, what was it? The Kiss album?
Yeah, Kiss album, and then I think it was Iron Maiden had one.
Yep. Iron Maiden had one too. That's right. I think didn't Metallica have one too?
I believe so. Yeah, Metallica, and I think Ozzy did too. Ozzy Osbourne did too.
I mean, but that's the thing is like you could play just about anything backwards if you have enough if you have enough speech that you can put in backwards. Like eventually you're gonna hear some words in the forward, and you're gonna hear what you want to hear eventually. Especially if you're like super Christian, super religious, and you start thinking that's the devil's music. Man, kids in the 70s had a hard time, man. I guarantee it.
Right. I came in at the tail end of the 70s. I'm a 79 baby.
Oh yeah, shit, man. So like, you grew up more in the 80s, then you're more of an 80s kid than a 70s kid. Like I grew up in 91, so I was a 90s baby. There was a question that Mariah had too. I think like, what is one thing that Spirit taught you? Right?
Yep.
To not trust them. That would be definitely the one big thing, that they lie.
Oh yeah.
And they will. And even if they're good spirits, they will lie. And I think and I mean, I'm sure you know that too, Mariah, but like, I just don't think that we have enough, like, that there's enough of us to like really have a recognition or a true recognition of like what, to be able to see past the facade. And but I mean, there are several people that can see past the facade, but I think that if we can't see them, then they could technically tell us whatever the hell they wanted, and we wouldn't know the difference. Like they could tell you that they were fucking Jesus, like they could tell you that they were, is some holy prophet. They could tell you whatever the hell they wanted, and you wouldn't be able to say otherwise because you don't know. How are you gonna know? I mean, unless, like I said, you have the ability to see them and whatnot. Like, I mean, but most of us don't have that ability.
No.
Right. And so I've just learned that spirits lie. But I've also learned that what we perceive or what we believe to be how the spiritual world works or how the universe works, I believe that it is so like what we understand right now is barely a fraction, like a thousandth of a percentile of what we could, like, of the knowledge that is there, I guess is a best way to say it. Because I think like, technology, we've lost touch with nature and the natural universe and environment, so like we don't have any kind of senses like they used to back in the day, where they did all those, ancient people did things for a reason, and maybe they didn't have an understanding of why they were doing these things, but they knew that, or they believed that what they were doing was influencing something. But like they were in tune with the idea that but they believe these things because they could feel it. They actually felt these things. They felt the changes. Like they could go up to a meteorite, right, and like feel the magnetic energy coming off of that thing. But they don't have magnets. They don't know what fucking magnetism is. It's 2000 BC, right? And so like, I think that what we believe like is happening, I don't necessarily know if any of it is what's actually happening. Like, I mean, as far as I know, we could be living in a fucking simulation. Like, and I'm starting more and more to believe in the idea that we are in some kind of programmed reality. I mean, especially when you start to look at the idea of, you start looking at numerology, and I know a lot of people don't look at numerology, and I don't necessarily buy into numerology 100%. But when you start looking at binary code, you start looking at how the universe, everything in the universe is math. It's all math. Everything is math, man. And that's something JW taught me a lot about too, is that like the universe is all numbers. It's ones and zeros.
Right.
And so that makes you wonder, like, I mean, there's got to be some sort of, you know what I mean? Like, how does that happen? Like, there's got to be some form of intelligence, like programming or coding going on, you would think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to all ideas, but I know that what we know is we don't know a damn thing. Like, we think we know so much, like we know very, very, very little. And I think we're only getting started. And that's something that Spirit has taught me. Because I've started realizing the truth, the reality behind a lot of these things. And, yeah. Kojak's Telly Savalas. I mean, but do we know for 100% for certain that he died because of a haunting? Or, oh, no. You're saying that it haunted him for the rest of his life. I mean, yeah. I mean, we can't sit here and tell him that he's wrong. And clearly he's experiencing something. But my problem is that I'm so skeptical, man. Like, you tell me a story about a haunting that you've experienced, like, I don't believe it. Unless I was there, I don't believe it. But that's just because of the that skepticism and like trying to make sure that what you're really truly saying is actually what happened. And if that is actually what happened, do we know that was actually a paranormal occurrence, or was that you misinterpreting something that, was not necessarily paranormal? And I mean that and I know that like that may not look good to a lot of people, because a lot of people look at it like, man, you don't believe anybody then? And it's like, no, I don't. But it's not meant to be like a shot at people. It's like not that like I don't believe that you, like, I believe that you believe that. Like, I believe that you experienced something that affected you.
Right.
Like, but do I know what that something was? Like, no, I'm just hearing what you believe that it was. And it's all belief. It's all belief. Everything is belief. If you don't believe it, you're not ever going to find it.
Right. That's like the same with Bigfoot too. I mean, some people believe he's out there. I mean, I'm skeptical on him.
Well, I think it's more like, religion. In a sense, like, if you have to have faith in order for it to be real.
Yep.
And I think that, and just like people who have some kind of profound experience and they find God, right? And I think that that's probably the case with the paranormal, and like somebody with people that will experience these crazy hauntings, like, what the hell, and they become believers. But just like with, they'll have a miracle happen in their life and they find God, right? But it is a belief system. Like, there's actually no real anything like tangible or legitimate that will prove that even ghosts exist. Like, this could be a severe case of a mass hallucination, or like what's that theory called? I can't think of the name of that theory, but it's called something effect, where like if enough people believe in it, it becomes real.
Yeah,
it's like the same thing with Slender Man and what's the other one?
There's Hat Man.
Yeah, that one. I mean, anything that came off of creepypasta too. I mean, like, yeah, 4chan and all that. Like, that's like, those became real. Like, I think Slender Man may have manifested because A tulpa. Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. But like, I think that Slender Man is like he manifested because of enough people truly believing that he is real. Like, I mean, he became real, I think, when the two girls in Wisconsin tried to murder their friend in the woods, saying that Slender Man told them to do it. That's when it became real. That's when it was like it manifested into reality, was by that moment. Like that act right there brought it into the real world. Before that, it was just an online story, and that's, but I think that that's more of the case. Like, I mean, but think about that. Like, that could truly be, that is a possibility that this is all just mass hallucination. It is a tulpa. Like, it could be. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of that. What if it is? So, like, how can we say it's not?
Right. And that's like the ones that take the pictures of stuff and they swear they see something in the picture, but it could just be a plant.
Yeah, it's called matrixing or pareidolia. There's different words for it, but I love my favorite ones are the people that will go outside with take a flash picture in a cemetery and see all the little orbs around. It's like, look at all these ghosts in the cemetery.
Yeah.
And in their mind, it's like, oh yeah, it's a cemetery. It's filled with ghosts, right? So look at all these ghosts just hanging out. I've captured them. And that was easy.
I love going to them just to debunk them. I mean, we've got a few. There's one down the road from where I live that the locals swear is haunted, and I've been in there at night. To me, it just seems peaceful and quiet.
Well, that's kind of like the whole point of a cemetery, isn't it?
Yeah.
For spirits to rest in peace, or for souls to rest in peace. That's why
we got called for another one that these kids went out there, and it's supposed to be an urban legend. They hear screams out there, and you see a blue light, and your car won't start. So we went out there. We were like, we're going to go debunk this. Well, we did see a blue light, but car did start. We made it home. We did hear screams out there, but it ended up being bobcat screaming because they had cattle and everything out in the pasture out there. So,
it's funny how that seems to happen, isn't it?
Yep.
But you notice you notice like every county in every state, like every single county in every single state has a crybaby bridge.
Yep.
It's so fucking wild, man. It's like, did every county, every bridge, every county has a bridge where some mother like dumped her infant over, like threw their infant over the fucking rail of the bridge? Like there's that many times it's happened? Or like, I think some of them, that like the baby was hung from the bridge or something. Like there's all those different, like there's no way that has happened that many times in every county in every state.
Right.
Damn, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of mothers killing their babies. That's like really fucked up, man. It's like, damn, we need to get our shit together, guys. What's going on? Stop killing your babies. Stop throwing them off of bridges. It's not good. It's not good to throw an infant off of a bridge. And I hope that that's not too controversial for people.
Well, we got one out here called Slagle's Mill, and they used to have a bridge, and supposedly the legend is Mr. Slagle hung his wife from the bridge, but a lot of people swear she committed suicide. But
is there any documentation of it? Anything that points to any legitimacy?
They never had no proof or evidence really to convict him of all his wives mysteriously dying. And
and it's hard to, because just because it wasn't documented doesn't mean it didn't happen. Let's put that out there. The further back you go, the less thing was the less shit was actually documented, right? Like fucking,
he was the judge, so he was the judge for Livingston.
Well, then, yeah, of course. If you were in law enforcement, yeah, you didn't have to document shit.
And I mean, he shot his own brother-in-law. His brother-in-law was coming to kill him because of his last wife. He had heard that she had married him and knew that he was a bad man, and so he was coming to kill him. Well, Mr. Slagle got the drop on him with a double barrel and shot him and buried him in the road out there. They never did find his body.
Well, it makes you wonder, did he really bury the body out there?
Exactly. And there's no
Or was it just an urban legend?
Yep.
Like, you guys, that game of Telephone, right? That game Telephone, where like, you tell one person one thing, by the time it gets all the way around the circle to back to the person, it's like something completely different than what you originally told them.
Well, we did test that theory on an urban legend out at this one cemetery. A buddy of mine swore that there's elementals in it and stuff, so we went out there and we were actually doing an EVP session. We're sitting on the bench in the cemetery. Well, this car pulls in of teenagers. I think they were looking to make out or something. And I said to my buddy, I said, "Hey, you want to have a little fun?" And he says, "Yeah." So we get up off the bench, and here's these two black figures, and we start walking towards the car. They slammed that car in reverse as fast as they could, and they sped out of there. And the next day, my buddy heard through town, "There's two black figures that sit on the bench in the cemetery at night."
So, funny story. And then I probably got to get off here, man. It's like 11, but funny story. There's an old hospital in Maysville, Kentucky. It's the Hayeswood Infirmary. And I mean, it's just been sitting there abandoned for decades, right? And so there was a time not too long ago where it was, I mean, all you had to do was step over a fucking 2x4 to get inside.
Right.
And like before there were new owners and they started cracking down on it. Like groups of teenagers used to fucking break in there all the time. And so there was one time where me and a former teammate of ours, we went in to do some investigating and some exploring, I mean, before I was, when I was young and reckless, right? But so while we were there, oh, shut up. That's my so like me and this girl were in there, just the two of us, and then this group of teens comes in, and we can hear them. They're loud as shit, right? They're laughing, talking to each other. So we hear them coming closer to us, and Lynn and this girl, she's like, "Let's fuck with them." And so she was like, "I'm gonna go running down at him." I was like, "No, hold on, just stay right here, just don't do nothing." And so I had like an all black shirt. I had an all black shirt, black shorts, a backpack, and I had a dust mask on because I mean it was pretty bad in there. And these kids were on the first floor. They were turning and they started coming up a staircase. And at the top of the I was standing at the top of the staircase. I didn't move. I didn't say nothing. I just had my eyes like real wide like this with my dust mask on. And I was just standing there perfectly still. And they turn the corner, they start coming up the staircase, and the girl in the front like looks up, sees me, books it. And then as she starts running away, the other kids are like, "What the hell?" They look up, they see me, and they all start booking it. Right. And so but at the time I had a friend that lived like almost like right across the street from the hospital. And whenever we would go in there to do exploring, like she would sit outside on her front porch there and just hang out. And that way she could like, tell us if we needed to get out. But she said that when they came running out, they like scattered like cockroaches and they like all were like sprinting. And it was just so funny because like I know exactly what you're saying. Like these kids thought they were gonna get a thrill. Well, I gave them the thrill of their life.
Right. It's probably bigger than legend now.
Yeah, now they firmly believe that building is haunted. They went in there and they all saw some doctor standing at the top of the. I mean, I had a dust mask on. I mean,
right. I did that at the school I worked at. I silhouetted myself into a wall, and I was wearing a dark shirt. The light was off, and this one
man.
teacher come walking up the hallway, and the object to look into the dark room. Well, she looked and seen a black figure standing there, and then I stepped out at her.
Yeah. Oh man, good times, man. Those are all fun. It's always fun to do that, like with kids especially. But as I get older, I really hope somebody doesn't do it to me.
Right.
Because I may have an unnatural reflex. Like you pop.
Right.
I know my wife would do it. My wife had done it. Like somebody popped out of a wardrobe one time in a hotel room at her, and she like smacked him right in the forehead. Like, well, don't do that shit again. Oh man.
Well,
man, this has been fun.
Yeah, it was a good show. I thank you for coming on. I thank everybody for joining us. And
yeah, for sure, man. No, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I appreciate you having me, dude.
I'll definitely have you on again.
No, for sure.
Might even let you co-host with me one night.
We'll see, man. We'll see what I'm up to. Especially because I co-host the show with KD.
Yeah,
and
KD,
I mean, the fact that he gets me to do that is a challenge in itself. That's something to be said. Because I wasn't gonna do it, and he convinced me to do it. Like he's like, man, I want to do this, but like, I need a co-host. All right. I got other other things I worry about, man. So I just do it for him. But yeah, man, I'll come back on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have you back on. I've got my guests next week are from Epic VIP Events, Mike and Sandy Belvoir.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know who that is, but I'm sure
they're down here in Missouri. They do a lot of the haunted events and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, cool. Hell yeah.
I met those guys at a Paracon, and so I told them I'd bring them on the show. They were supposed to come on tonight, but the ones at the 1889 McIntyre Villa tonight, they're doing a women's event out there tonight.
Yep. Well, that's all right, man. I was glad to be able to get the spot, and definitely have to make it work again soon.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. We'll have to meet up sometime and do some investigating.
Well, next time I come out to visit KD, when we go out there, we stay for a few days. So I mean, maybe we'll make something happen next time I go out there for sure.
I'm only an hour away from KD, so.
Oh yeah, then we'll figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna be taking him with me on some investigations with me. We got some stuff planned.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. He's a cool dude, man. He's got a lot of cool ideas and a lot of really cool equipment. So
I enjoy KD. We cut it up quite a bit and horse around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of getting after Brandon.
That's always a good time.
All right. Thank you again, Austin, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, for sure, buddy. Thanks again for having me.
Yep, you're welcome. Anytime. Have a good night, everyone.